everyone, welcome back to the hardware news recap of the week. We actually have two hardware news episodes that are going up because the one just before this we had delayed for the Noctua NH-D15 G2 review. And speaking of that, we have a brief update on the G2. So Noctua sent us an email. They have some improvements they've made to their documentation and some comments about the washer mod that we talked about that in reviews. So that'll be in here. We're also talking about the FTC putting ASRock, Gigabyte, and Zotac on notice about warranty issues. Some of this relating to Magnuson-Moss, the Warranty Act in the US. This is something we've talked about in the past, and it's coming up again now with different companies. And then NVIDIA getting some antitrust charges in France. And additionally, we'll be going over some rumors about Ryzen 9000 X3D processor overclocking capabilities, which would be a deviation from prior OC permissions on X3D CPUs. That'll be pretty big if it turns out to be true. All right, let's get into the news. Before that, this video is brought to you by NZXT's C1500 Platinum Power Supply, which has passed the Cybernetics Titanium standard for efficiency. NZXT has been certified for efficient operation upwards of 94% and uses a 140mm fan to help run quieter under load. This 180mm form factor power supply is fully modular, using capacitors rated for 105 degrees Celsius. Learn more at the link in the description below. First up, quick GN update for what we've been working on lately. So some super cool stuff. First of all, the Noctua G2 review. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It has our laser scanning in it. We use the acoustic chamber in it for some really cool comparisons we wouldn't have been able to do in just the standard open room setup we used to use. And I'm super excited about it because it came out great. It was the perfect test candidate to use all of our equipment and really get it evaluated to see if Noctua's claims were accurate, but also just to try and understand more about some things that we've observed in the past, like acoustical phenomena, but now have the tools to properly evaluate and show on a chart in some form. So anyway, it's just cool. If you're not going to buy the cooler because it's $150, that's totally fine, and I completely agree with you. But it's maybe worth checking out parts of the review just to see some of the stuff we're working on behind the scenes and now publicly. In that, we didn't make a huge deal out of this, but we debuted our 14900 KF test bench, and that has a 250 watt heat load, which is appropriate for these high-end air coolers. We also have a 200 watt heat load for Intel, not in those charts because it's just not hot enough. But the point is we are now doing Intel and AMD IHS style testing. We're planning to roll out AM5 to start slowly phasing out our AM4 test bench. We wanted to do this earlier, but with the 9000 series less than a month away. I mean, AMD has publicly stated its release is July. We figured we'd just wait for that and put a 9000 series AMD CPU in it and use that going forward. So some of the cool stuff with the AM4 bench we've had is I think it's now 5 years of data. It's like 4 or 5 years of data on it. So that is permanently accessible. I have updated the MegaCharts page now. So MegaCharts on gamersnexus.net has every cooler that at least I was able to remember that we've tested in some charts that are quickly accessible. So if you want to just see how have all the coolers done ranked against each other in a chart that is bigger than what a 16:9 video aspect ratio will support, go to gamersnexus.net. You can find that chart. There's no third-party ads on it, and that's just available if you want a long-term reference. And then that will be kept even as we bring in our AM5 bench and our LGA 1700 bench starts to accumulate more and more data. It's already got a lot on it, but we're going to build dozens more data points for that for each cooler that we have. So the cool thing with the MegaCharts is just leaving all the old stuff accessible too. So you want to pick something for an AM4 platform, or if we want to, at GN, want to compare, okay, how does AM4 compare to AM5 for the heat dissipation capabilities and how coolers handle these different CPUs despite being relatively similar for the IHS structure, aside from those 8 spider legs on AM5, we'll have all this data easy to just put side by side, and we're looking forward to doing that for you all. So anyway, that's on MegaCharts. And then the other thing we worked on recently is this, which is the fractal mood test. And so this has got some cool acoustic benchmarks in it as well. And it was a fun project. Thermally, some very bad decisions here from Fractal. Honestly, it was pretty disappointing for me because when we saw the design at Computex, it made a ton of sense. And then just the execution of it, the way it worked, it just didn't pan out the way we were hoping. And it's because of some really small stuff that Fractal missed, like the SSD cage or sled in the top. Anyway, tons of testing going up right now, and like I said, the GN website has now been fully updated with mega charts for the coolers, and we also have all of our Computex news coverage converted to written format, or almost all of it. So if you head over there, you want to get just a written quick recap of what's coming out this year for computer hardware, you can go there, click on news, and pick what you're interested in. There are, like I said, no third-party ads, but if you want to support our efforts to maintain a website that is super fast because it has no BS third-party ads with 72 tracking autoplaying videos that pop up, or if you want to support it because on mobile, it doesn't cover so much of the screen with ads that you have one sentence visible at a time and you need to scroll very carefully in that 12 pixels to not click on an ad, then to support what we're doing with our website, you can go to the store or to Patreon. So on store.gamersnexus.net, we have these shirts available. We placed the order for the skeleton foils t-shirts after the Asus series. So they're in manufacturing. They're going to be on their way pretty soon. And we ordered extras so that between now and when they arrive and we start shipping them over the next couple months, if you want to get one and you didn't earlier, you can still grab one on store.gamersnexus.net. And that is just to directly help fund all the testing we're doing right now, in addition to the further deep dives and investigations. All right, the FTC puts ASRock, Gigabyte, and Zotac on blast. Back again. We contacted Zotac for comment on this one, and Zotac said the FTC won't let me be, so let me be me and void your warranty. Like Houdini bitten by a radioactive spider, ASRock, Gigabyte, and Zotac are trying to squirm and crawl their way out of more warranty possible violations. Specifically, all three companies may be in violation of the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which in part prevents manufacturers from using warranty void stickers and language that suggest customers don't have the right to open and repair their purchased products. In a letter from the FTC to Gigabyte, which was spotted by PC World, the commission stated that it was, quote, concerned by the following phrasing around the company's repair restrictions. Quote, if the manufacturing sticker inside the products was removed or damaged, it would no longer be covered by the warranty, end quote. Similarly, the FTC also sent a letter to ASRock in which it stated it was concerned again by the following language within the written warranty. Quote, manufacturer's warranty will be null and void if products are modified, damaged, or otherwise tampered with. For example, the outer case is opened or additional optional parts and components are installed or removed, end quote. Finally, the FTC issued a similar concern about Zotac's warranty. Zotac says, quote, warranty claims will be void if the user tampers, defaces, or removes any stickers indicating void warranty if broken, end quote. That one is particularly bad because that is just straight up unenforceable, and it has been for a long time. For all three companies, the FTC went on to say that it would be concerned if the companies required customers to purchase an article or service under its warranty coverage, and that it would be further concerned if warranty coverage would be denied based on the aforementioned warranty provisions. Now, Zotac is not the first cane of controversy. In fact, the FTC sent this to Asus previously. I didn't mean to rhyme that one. That worked out pretty well. If these companies are found to be in violation of the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which you can learn more about in our previous two discussions with both Nathan Proctor from the PIRG and with Vincent Augusta, an attorney, talking about the Asus issues, then Zotac, ASRock, and Gigabyte could face substantial fines and penalties. And these are not necessarily just slaps on the wrist, because penalties recently have been as high as over $40,000 per occurrence. And if you want to learn more about this topic, so this kind of borders on, or well, actually in this case, is directly related to right to repair stuff. Check out our discussion with Nathan Proctor from PIRG. That was part of the Asus series. And although there's some stuff specific to Asus in there, there's also some just generic information that may be interesting to you if you feel passionate about this kind of thing. Lewis Rossman referred us to Nathan Proctor, and Lewis has also recently posted a piece talking about right to repair laws that are actually going into effect. So if you needed a dose of optimism, not sure Lewis or I normally come up for that, but you can check out his video as well for some information of what's happening and what does that timeline look like. So some good stuff happening in that space, some bad, but at least there's some good. All right, Noctua responds to our NH-D15 G2 review, or at least one of the key criticisms in it. So we posted that review a few days ago, and it is one of the most, actually it is the most in-depth cooler review we've ever done with all the stuff we used on it. I loved working on that one. regardless of the product itself. It was just fun to work on. But that testing included a look at pressure validation of a washer mod that Noctua includes. So this washer mod places 4 1mm washers under the ILM to increase the cooler performance on Intel. And it does work. It was about a 0.9 degree improvement in the test we ran. Now, we complained that this washer mod was difficult to thread, including sometimes struggling to get the threads to catch in a way that, to take a word from the FTC, concerned us was that novice users may be more prone to stripping the threads or improperly completing the mod. This could result in loose ILM. It could be overly tight. You might drop memory channels if it's that case. Or you could just strip things out. Following our NH-D15 G2 review publication, Noctua contacted us about that statement and our criticisms regarding the Intel washer mod. Noctua updated the washer mod manual with the following text after our review, quote, "If necessary, reach behind the motherboard and apply counter pressure to the backplate to help the screws catch the thread. If the screws still don't catch the thread, please contact us at support@noctua.at so that we can supply you with longer screws." So that was sort of what we said in the review too, was it's a lot easier to get it to catch if you push up on the backside of the ILM while applying a moderate amount of force down. And then, as always, you should do a counterclockwise spin first to let it sink and catch the thread and then turn it, rather than just turning it right away. It's a little tricky because if you tighten it too much, it's just not going to feel good. But if you don't tighten it enough, I mean, there's not a lot of thread engagement there. And so it's a balance between getting that performance uplift, but also not having it end up loose or actually just not really secure at all in one of those screw holes. So both Mike and I were dissatisfied with how much bite was left to the screws after adding the washers, and our commentary to the public in our video was we think Noctua should either shorten the washers or should provide longer screws. And as Mike said in the review, the problem with shortening the washers is they probably start losing the benefit they're going for, and it wouldn't even be worth it. And then longer screws, I can't think of a great reason that wouldn't be okay. And in fact, Noctua noted to us that if it becomes a common problem and people struggle with this, it may include additional screws by default that are longer. But for now, they said if you end up needing them on a case-by-case basis, you can email them. They'll send you the extra screws that are longer. And that's what other companies do. So Arctic provides its own screws with its contact frame for the Liquid Freezer 3 as an example. So we think this is a great response to our primary criticism. Other than the price, there's not much they can say about the price. I mean, it's one of those like it is what it is type of things, unless they're going to drop it. But the response to the criticism of the wash mod we thought was good. We're happy to see that. And if you haven't seen the review, even if you're not going to buy the cooler, you should check it out. But ultimately, the kind of conclusion of it was this is not for the vast majority of people. We wouldn't recommend it for the vast majority of people because you can get effectively the same or close enough performance for much cheaper. But it was also one of those where it's like, it's a really good cooler and the engineering is cool and they've packaged it really well. The manual is really good, which is rare. It's very clear. And so there's reasons you could buy it, especially support being one of them, which it seems like they're trying to reinforce here. But there's a ton of reasons to not buy it, especially if you're on more of a budget and you can't justify an extra $100, $120 for a cooler when you could put that instead towards an X3D CPU or something. So a little bit of nuance to the conclusion. I'll leave that to the review if you want to check it out. Up next, NVIDIA to receive antitrust charges in France. And according to Reuters, the French antitrust regulator is set to charge NVIDIA for antitrust and anti-competitive practices. The information follows raids into NVIDIA's offices in France, where Reuters noted that the raids were a result of a broader investigation into cloud computing. Its sources say that NVIDIA was a specific target. So NVIDIA's prolific rise and dominance in the AI chip market has spurred scrutiny from numerous regions. Reuters said that in NVIDIA's regulatory filing last year, China, the EU, and France had all asked for more information regarding the company's GPUs. We previously reported that US regulators were also investigating NVIDIA. The French authority is looking into NVIDIA currently, and Reuters suggests that this will likely prevent the European Commission from expanding its preliminary review of the company in the interim. While there has been no comment from France's antitrust regulator thus far at the time of filming, the watchdog said it was concerned about the AI sector's dependence on NVIDIA's hardware and software platforms. It's easy to make fun of the amount of concern that is proliferated by agencies, but also it is sort of like the corporate version of an FU, I guess. So, I mean, I get it, but it's also kind of funny. Everybody's concerned about everything. Will it amount to anything? We'll find out. But at the same time, I've definitely sent emails that say I'm concerned about things too, and it had a much deeper meaning, so I get it. Now, it also expressed concerns around the company's investments in AI-centric cloud service providers like CoreWeave via Reuters. Reuters notes that the companies can receive fines as high as 10% of their worldwide yearly revenue for infringing on French antitrust rules. For reference, NVIDIA's revenue last reported was $79.774 billion for the 12 months prior to April 30th, 2024. 10% of that would equate to almost $8 billion bucks. And if France considers that a slap on the wrist, then it might be a slap heard around the world. Companies can make concessions to ward off penalties, though. As reported on before, this news follows the FTC and the Justice Department stating that they are looking into antitrust inquiries regarding NVIDIA and some other companies in the AI space as well. That's in a previous episode if you're curious. All right, next one, Ryzen 9000 X3D processors to allegedly support full overclocking, or at least fuller than previously. So this is according to WCCF Tech. AMD's upcoming Ryzen 9000 X3D CPUs will allegedly offer more overclocking support. This would go beyond PBO and the usual precision boost, curve optimizer tuning, and the reason that it's been turned off historically for X3D is mostly because AMD is worried about the health of the 3D cache, which is very temperature sensitive, and also because it's all stacked vertically like that, it is prone to getting hotter just because you're distancing some of the silicon by nature of stacking more silicon on top of it from the IHS and therefore from the cooler, or at least I mean, the distance doesn't technically increase the same Z height, but you're adding more stuff in between it, and that stuff happens to also be pretty hot. So that's the reason they've had it off. Now, the publication added, quote, there might still be a few checks in place to safeguard fragile 3D stacks placed on top of each Zen 5 CCD. WCCF Tech claims that AMD's 9000 X3D CPUs are expected to release by the end of September. The actual 9000 series is supposed to launch sometime in July, from what we understand. AMD has publicly said this. I don't think they've put a date on it officially at the time of filming. And then the 800 series motherboards are supposed to launch sometime over the next, well, really throughout the rest of the year at this point. Up next, in a blow to physical media, Sony is killing its Blu-ray production for the consumer market. It's going to keep doing it for B2B, but its recordable optical disc media is dead for consumer. The company's been producing optical media since the 1980s and helped popularize Blu-rays with the release of the PlayStation 3 in 2006. Sony didn't reveal when production will stop indefinitely, but if you archive your data on Blu-rays and aim to continue to do so, you might want to stock up on them. This news comes on the heels of Sony cutting 250 positions at its optical media plant, which is located in Takagyoshi, Japan. Tom's Hardware reports that the company is offering workers early retirement to account for this fact. In an interview with AV Watch, which has been machine translated, Sony stated, quote, for B2B customers, we will continue to produce and sell the product in stock. Tom's added that Sony is still producing Blu-rays for corporate customers, specifically in the movie industry. Elaborating on why it's feeling so blue about Blu-rays, Sony stated, quote, growth of the cold storage market has not met expectations, and the overall performance of our storage media business has continued to be in the red. So we've decided that we need to review our business structure in order to improve profitability. Next one's pretty interesting. This is basically a study published by Valve. So controller usage on Steam has, according to Valve, tripled since 2018, with daily average controller users moving from approximately 5% to 15% for daily average. Now, according to Valve, Xbox controllers make up 59% of the controller pie, with PlayStation controllers in second place at 26%. That gap is smaller than we expected, given that Xbox controllers offer the added advantage of matching in-game button prompts through X input. Valve counts the Steam Deck as a controller as well, which takes the third spot at 10%. That's actually not too bad, considering the handheld came out in 2022. The increase in controller usage may speak to Steam's rising popularity with console gamers, or it could also be a reflection of the fact that Steam has been getting more and more console-centric ports since 2018, especially with what Microsoft's been doing. For instance, several PlayStation exclusive recently, like God of War, Uncharted, and Last of Us, and Ghost of Tsushima, have come to Valve's platform since 2018. The company has also made several updates to bolster Steam controller support in recent years, including updating Big Picture mode to be more controller-centric and compatible, incorporating a new controller configurator that more easily manages controller bindings, and more. My read on this report is that it probably means an increase in more casual or mainstream gamers to the platform, which is a good thing. If they want sustained growth in a responsible way, that's probably the place to go. So maybe that's what it is. All right, next one is the new internet speed record set in Japan. So the National Institute of Information Communications Technology, or NICT in Japan, has set a new internet record of 402 terabits per second, which amounts to roughly 490 installations of Red Dead Redemption 2 per second. When American internet service providers heard of this, they clasped their clammy hands and they said, best I can offer is 30 megabits. What makes this feat even more impressive is that they achieved this record using commercially available fiber optic cables. According to Fudzilla, NICT and its partners transmitted signals through 1,505 channels across 50 kilometers of fiber optic cable, and the publication noted that, quote, the secret sauce combined 6 amplifier types and an optical gain equalizer tapping into the unused 37 terahertz bandwidth. Now, the fact that this was done with commercially available fiber is pretty awesome. And we look forward to 400 terabit per second Ethernet ports on motherboards with Ryzen IO dies that are the size of a house. Last one, researchers from the University of California, San Diego have reported and discovered vulnerabilities with Intel's Alder and Raptor Lake CPUs. Intel can't get a break, it seems like, on vulnerabilities for going on like a decade now. Similar to the Spectre vulnerability issues revealed in 2018, these indirect attacks can potentially be used to reveal sensitive data like passwords and encryption keys. And once again, it is done by looking at branch prediction. The researchers said that these attacks work by exploiting the indirect branch predictor, which is helpful for CPU performance optimization, but can be a security risk if manipulated. Intel issued a statement to Tom's Hardware saying, quote, Intel reviewed the report submitted by academic researchers and determined previous mitigation guidance provided for issues such as IBRS, EIBRS, and BHI are effective against this new research, and no new mitigations or guidance is required. We also asked Intel for a statement, and they sent us this.
Please, Pittsburgh, nothing to see here.
The researchers did mention under its mitigation section that Intel, quote, has already integrated new fields such as core ID and privilege level into their recent indirect branch predictor design. This inclusion aims to prevent aliasing between indirect branches originated from different SMT cores and different privilege levels, respectively. The researchers also added, quote, however, this still leaves potential attack surfaces within the same core and or same privilege scenarios, end quote. That's gonna be it for this one. We are starting to ramp heavily on CPU testing right now, so we're refreshing all of our CPU benchmarks. We've added a lot of new games, and we're running everything back through that suite, plus all the new games, updated Final Fantasy. We're trying to get Dragon's Dogma into the suite, stuff like that, because AMD has already publicly stated it's launching new CPUs this month, so we're preparing for that. We'll be pretty busy, so videos will be probably going back down to a maybe 2 to 4 per week cadence while we work on that and just really refine stuff and get it all ready to go for the big reviews. So thanks for watching. Check back regularly for more. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to grab a shirt like this one to support us directly. And if you want to see one of our technical reviews, you check out the Fractal Mood or the Noctua NH-D15 G2. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.